that after a brain injury, people are twice as likely to experience addiction problems. And this is due to a number of things. One being there's a change in the brain due to the injury. Injuries to areas like the prefrontal cortex, which affects the impulse control and reward regulation. So using substances is also another way of coping with the challenges of brain injury. So people that self-medicate for pain, who have trouble for sleep, anxiety, or just the sheer exhaustion of living with a brain injury. We know it's hard for people to talk about this. So therefore, today we wanted to reduce the stigma associated with addiction. And we wanted to start this quartet off to ensure that, you guys understand it a little bit more when it comes to addiction. So without further ado, we're absolutely delighted to have Simon Kozac here join us today from the Brave Hearts charity in New Zealand. This is a whānau-based addiction services that helps whānau overcoming addiction. Simon's has a lived experience of addiction and many years experience in mental health and addictions in the addiction sector. And he's currently on the board of Brave Hearts. So I'm just going to pass it over to Simon, and he's going to unleash his knowledge on us.
Kia ora te whānau. Can everyone see me okay? We're all good? Is everybody indicating that we're good? Yeah. Okay. So my name's Simon, and just a couple of things before I kick into the session. And just want to make clear that what I'm not is I'm no form of doctor or scientist or medical professional. But what I am is someone who had a 25-year plus history of addiction, principally to alcohol. And I've currently 15 years clean and sober. And for 8 of those years, I've worked in the mental health and addiction sector. So I am a practitioner, and I do have a heap of lived experience. So I know all about alcohol, and I know all about alcohol addiction, and I know all about the impact that it has on individuals and also on the family and whānau that surround them. And there's nothing pretty about any of it. So a couple of things I need to dispel. When I'm talking about drinking, I'm not talking about having a couple of half pints at the pub after work on a Friday. I'm talking about drinking solidly throughout the day, waking up at 4 a.m. in the morning, starting the day with a half pint of Chardonnay and topped up with vodka, and then continuing like that for the rest of the day. I'm talking about losing jobs, losing families, being alienated from your children, and really becoming a different version of the person that you used to be in your life before that addiction took hold. There's only ever 3 outcomes for people in addiction, and that's either insanity, institution, incarceration, or hopefully the 4th one, which is recovery. I'm lucky enough to be in the 4th one, which is recovery. If you are in addiction, or if that is a problem, just be aware that we are going to be covering those issues. Okay, so my next slide is what exactly is addiction. When people talk about addiction is a set of behaviors that renders you powerless over doing, taking, or using something, and your life becomes unmanageable. So really doesn't matter whether it's alcohol like it was for me, or whether it's drugs, or whether it's sex, or whether it's porn, or whether it's food, or whether it's social media, or any of the newer addictions. It's a set of behaviors for which you will do anything. So when you're in addiction from powerful adjuncts such as alcohol, you become very untrustworthy, and you change your life to fit around the addiction itself. So you might be late for meetings, you don't pick your kids up from school, you don't spend money in the way that you're supposed to spend it, because everything is geared towards funding whatever that addiction is. So the standard definition is the one you can see on the screen, and it's the one which is most apposite, is it renders you wholly and totally powerless, and the rest of your life becomes unmanageable, because obviously you're trying to fit your life around something which is not natural to you. So there is a connection between things and the addiction itself. But I just want to say a couple of brutal truths about addiction. And one of them is that there's no such thing as a functioning addict. So people talk about, oh, I know such and such a person, they're a high functioning alcoholic. They're not, they're just an alcoholic. Turning up at work, smelling of booze, not having had enough sleep, alienating your kids, not taking care of your responsibilities, sledging your way through the day so that you can go home and have another drink, doesn't make you high functioning. It simply means you're addicted. And addiction is a great leveler. So addiction doesn't just impact discrete groups of people. So it's not true to say that if you're suffering from head trauma, therefore that's the cause of your addiction. It's not true to say that if you're bullied at school, that's the cause of your addiction. It's not true to say that if you've had any other kind of trauma, that that is the cause of your addiction. It may very well be that you're using addiction as the method of blanking out past events. However, brutally, unfortunately, the truth is you have to separate what you're deeming to be the cause from the addiction itself. Simply put, curing your addiction is not going to fix your head trauma. Curing your addiction is not going to fix the fact that you were assaulted as a child. Dealing with your head trauma is not going to fix your addiction. Dealing with your childhood sexual assault isn't going to fix your addiction. The only thing that's going to fix your addiction is dealing with your addiction. So one of the first things I would say to everyone is you have to seek help from the relevant agencies. So if you want to get help with your addiction, then you need to go and talk with a doctor, an addictions practitioner, or someone who specializes in that particular field. And once you've mastered that and you're on top of that, then you can begin to work through all the other bits and pieces. But don't make the mistake of lumping it all together and thinking that one fix will cure everything. It simply won't. And I can speak from my own experience with that. Blanking out to blackout is very, very common. And there is a direct line between trauma and addiction, whether it's a physical trauma, such as the one that we're discussing with Headway, or whether or not it's some other kind of trauma. There is a direct line, because addiction is often used as a means of very quickly transporting yourself to somewhere more pleasant, whether it's eating out of habit, whether it's drinking to blackout, whether it's a young mum dropping the kids off at the school gate, going home and having half a bottle of wine because she can't, she wants to get all that stress out of her head and she can't be prepared to face the day. True to say that those are causal, but you still have to separate to fix them. So you must separate the addiction and the cause and treat the addiction to treat the trauma. Don't make the mistake of lumping it all together. And please don't make the mistake of thinking that you're a high functioning anything. You're not. You're simply an addict of whatever your addict is. And so you need to be brutally honest with yourself about that, because in my experience, both of myself and of others, addicts by definition can't be trusted. So on to that, how do you spot an addict? Well, if it's something like booze, there are physical indicators. So, for example, you can smell. So you can smell that someone's been drinking. They might be wobbly on their feet. They just look drunk. They look dishevelled. It's route number one that the police use, for example, when they pick you up. The reason that they put their head in through the car window is because they want to smell what you're about, and they're looking for evidence. But there's behavioral things. All addicts are liars, and there's no getting away from it. And again, I use the word brutal a lot because it is a brutal world when you're in addiction. So it doesn't matter whether it's porn, food, booze, meth. All addicts are liars, and all addicts will do a number of things. First of all, they won't tell the truth. How many of you had to drink? Oh, I just had one on the way home. It's a lie. You've probably been drinking all day. Where did all that money go? Oh, I had to lend somebody something. It's a lie. You spent it on booze. So not telling the truth is one thing. You'll also notice other things like there'll be financial disparities, there'll be behavioral changes, changes in appearance, and obviously changes to mental and physical health. So people will become more short-tempered, they'll become angry easier, and also from a physical point of view, you'll discover that you stop looking after yourself as an addict, or you'll notice if it's someone that you love that they stop looking after themselves. No more trips to the dentist, they don't go for their blood tests, things, bumps and unexplained bumps and bruises and cuts suddenly appear. So there's all that kind of thing. And the bottom line is that you're dealing with a different person when that person is in addiction. And there's a saying that I do believe, and that is that people that are in addiction aren't bad people, they're sick people. And I truly believe that addiction is not a legal problem, it's a health issue. It's really a health issue. And it doesn't matter what caused your addiction. I say it doesn't matter because it genuinely doesn't matter. So there's no point wasting energy on saying, I'm drinking too much because I have a head trauma. I'm drinking too much, or is it because I was X, Y, Z? It doesn't matter. You are where you are at the moment where you are, and you need to deal with it in those terms. But please remember, if you are dealing with someone in addiction, you're not dealing with the person that you thought you loved in the first place. And we use this term a lot to describe people in addiction. It's people that we love. So don't think that all addicts go home to live together in a little colony somewhere called Addict City. It's not what it happens. Addicts are 1 in 10 of the population are addicted to something. So think about that. If you know 10 people, that means one of you is in some form of addiction. So it could be your co-worker, your husband, child, next door neighbor, storeman at work. So they're ordinary people that transfuse all of society. But when they're in addiction, you're not dealing with the person that, for example, you might have married or the child that you raised. So be brutal, but do realize that you can be brutal because you're dealing with a different animal from the one that you were dealing with pre-addiction. So in terms of intervention, I think there are 2 basic principles when it comes to effective intervention, and it's as follows. You can't intervene early enough, and you can't be brutal enough. And take that at face value. If I know that PJ is turning up to work and I can smell booze on him and he's tottering around and he's saying stupid things and he's being knocked off his bike and he's behaving in that, why would I not intervene early enough? Because what? Because I might offend him, because I might upset him, because it's not the done thing, because it's culturally unsafe. For goodness sake, I could be saving his life. So get in there early. And if he's not drunk, no damage done. No damage done, is there? So you've got to get in early. Don't sit on the sideline. Don't be polite. Don't think it'll blow over. Don't think it will go away. Don't write people off as being high functioning. It's a nonsense. If you suspect it, say it, see it, get in early. And the second point is you can't be brutal enough. Interventions need to be hard, they need to be brutal, and they need to be quick. So going back to our learned colleague PJ, I would just go up to him and say, mate, I think you've got a problem. I've smelled alcohol on your breath every day this week at 9 in. You've got a problem. How can I help? No point pussyfooting around. No point trying to find language or going into corners and thinking, oh, I wonder how we do it. You just get straight in there because you're dealing with a matter of life and death. Remember, all addicts have the same story. And I've heard them all. And I've heard all the lies and I've heard all the reasons. All the stories are the same. And they all end up in one of 5 places: insanity, incarceration, institution, death, or recovery. My job is to get people into recovery, and I do that by getting in early and getting in hard. Now, quick plug for Bravehearts. Bravehearts, which I'm a director, is an organisation set up to support family and whānau of loved ones in addiction. Addicts tend to be the heroes. So when you're in addiction, you're front and centre, you're centre stage. When you're in recovery, you're equally the hero because you got clean and you're centre stage. But behind you is the mess, the devastation, and the destruction that you left behind you. Broken families, traumatised children, empty bank accounts, and so on. Bravehearts exists to support those families, and we also have something that we call a toolkit. And if you would like to book a toolkit session, you can email me. And the toolkit session basically is a 10-point plan which enables you and it educates you about how to intervene and how to look after yourself and those that you love that are in addiction. So that's it from me. Key messages, I suppose, are many things can cause addiction. Please separate the perceived cause from the addiction itself. Once you're in the grip of addiction and you're in those behaviors where your life is unmanageable and you can't stop, you really need to deal with that as a singular issue, irrespective of what the cause is. And that will then better enable you to deal with that particular cause, whether it's physical, medical, emotional, or whatever. Don't believe an addict ever. Never enable them. They're not telling the truth. Equally, they're not the person that you used to know. They're a different person. The good news is that in recovery, new people do emerge. So the Simon that sits before you today is reunited with family. I'm in a very happy marriage. I'm a competing athlete in the Masters division, and I work in mental health and addiction, and I'm running a very happy, fulfilled and contributing life. And I'm nothing special. There are many people like me. So there is hope. So I don't want to end on a bad note that sort of makes people feel depressed. There is hope and it can be done. But you do need to separate the cause, treat the addiction, then go back to treating what you perceive the cause to be. Don't trust addicts. Don't enable them. Get in early. Be brutal. Hold hope. That's it. I'm happy to take questions, I suppose.
Awesome. Yeah, so thank you so much, Simon. I love those key points of separating the cause, and love hearing your journey too and where you are now. And we've got some questions, everybody, that have been written into us this week. So I'm just going to ask Simon now. Question number one is, how do I manage when addictions, alcohol, cannabis, are due to afternoon and evening boredom and chronic pain? I don't have the energy to do anything productive, and staring at the walls or watching TV from 2 to 8 p.m. is not good for my mental health.
Yeah, look, there's a lot in that question, and I think really the question answers itself in that you've already identified that evening boredom. So there's a time of the day when you think you've got a hole. So go back to what I was saying earlier. How do you fill that? You use something, whether it's food or booze or dope, because you want to move to a place that feels better. And similarly, pain. So you've got your physical cause and you've got your emotional cause. I think you also realize by asking the question that you're dealing with two separate things. And I will give you 5 things that you can do to fill that gap, which are very, very different from reaching for a chocolate bar or a pull on a joint or a glass of whiskey. And they're as follows. First of all, it's always good. Movement is always good. So in those specific boredom moments, it's always good to intervene with yourself and make a quick change quickly. So when, if you can ask this question, then you know that, I'm paraphrasing, but what you're indicating is that you know that on most days, early evening, you're going to hit a problem. So you can do one of the following 5 things. You can move a bit. So you maybe get out, go for a walk, go and do something. Secondly, talk to somebody. Making connections is always good. And that could be somebody in the local supermarket, or it could be phoning somebody. So physical movement, making connections, thinking about what else you can do in that moment. So being really present. If you realize that you're in the hole in the early evening, then think, okay, I'm going to read a chapter of a book, for example, just to pull me back into it. Thinking about the long-term consequences is another good thing. So think about someone else as well. So a bit like the ACC advert. If I have a drink now, what is that going to do? It's going to mean that I can't read my child a bedtime story or so on. So anyway, so those are the things. Yeah.
I think we've got one more left. One more question. This one here is, I'm interested in knowing if there's an increased addiction risk for alcohol after brain injury.
Right, as I said at the beginning, I'm not a doctor or a scientist, but yes, there is. So all the numbers tell us that you're twice as likely to end up in addiction after a brain injury, and there is a straight line, as I said, between the two things, because clearly, if you had that kind of physical trauma, then the shape of your brain and there's a lot of work I did in early addiction to do with neuroplasticity and so on. And so I can understand how you would get there, but I still go back to my main point. Even though that is the case, try, if you can, to separate the two issues and deal with your addiction as a separate thing, because it ain't going to make things better. So the quicker you can get rid of the addiction side and the addictive behaviors, the easier it will be to get on top of the more important thing, which is doing all the things you need to do to deal with your physical trauma.
I think that'll wrap it up.